Hello! I hope you're having a good Saturday morning, everyone who's joined us, and also to you guys, the panelists for today. It looks a little gray outside. Well, from where I am, I don't know about you guys, but we're not going to let that spoil this fun session that we're going to have. It's going to be a very, very cool and cozy session. I just want to welcome everyone. We are going to launch not one, but two books today. So you guys get a double bill, a double special. The first book is Saturday's Surprisingly Super-Duper Lesson by Jolene Tan. I'm just going to hold this. Can you guys see it? And the other book is Just a Little Mynah by Evelyn Wong. And this is presented as part of the Asian Festival of Children's Content 2020, the Digital Symposium. My name is Chris, I'm from Epigram Books, and I will be the MC for this launch. Not like kind of rapper MC, but you know, just the moderator. Okay, well, I think we're gonna kick off, since it's a Saturday morning and this book is so appropriately titled, Saturday Surprisingly Super-Duper Lesson. The author is Jolene Tan. She's actually released the book before. She wrote it for grown-ups. It's called A Certain Exposure, but I guess if you guys, can you guys see it? Yeah, so that's the Singapore version. It was also released in the UK. But this time around, her book is a children's book, right, Jolene? And you know, I always like to torture the authors by getting them to do all the explanations. So Jolene Tan, could you just give us a quick insight into what the Saturday's Surprisingly Super-Duper Lesson is all about?
Sure. I mean, there's going to be a short reading from it later, which I guess is probably the best summary. But it basically starts with this child, Aish, who's in a lesson on a Saturday morning and itching to be outside because who wants to be in a classroom on a Saturday morning, right? And sort of in her bored, sort of fidgeting and playing with her stationery, she discovers that she has a magic pencil, and then fun ensues. Okay,
and you know, what's interesting is I think for this particular book as well, this idea of kids having fun during class. Okay, I'm not that I'm recommending that. No, I'm just saying. But sometimes I think I like the idea of the kids, you know, actually thinking, okay, well, I want to do something and have a bit of fun while I'm still in the lesson as well. So I would guess maybe what we could do is, if you could do a little bit of the reading for the book to set the whole story in motion and get the context of the whole story.
Yeah, we actually did a video and audio recording. So I think, Doretta, if you could share that, then that would be great. Saturday's Surprisingly Super-Duper Lesson. On a Saturday morning, the last thing Aish wanted to do was to sit in the classroom. She wished she could go to the park, climb trees, and ride her bicycle. Instead, Aish watched Mr. Firdaus write line after line of maths problems. His voice was like the distant hum of traffic. Bored, Aish fiddled with her pencil. She spun it this way and that. She tried to balance it on her lip. She sharpened its other end. Then she started to doodle. Aish had barely finished when a strange glow appeared at the bottom edge of the paper and rippled through it to the top. The edges of the leaves began to peel off and color swirled into the branches. A miniature tree stood on her desk. Aish stared in wonder. Could her pencil bring animals to life too? She decided to test it. Astonishingly, a finished pangolin stood up, just like the tree. Incredible, Aish murmured. Perhaps, sniffed the little creature, wiggling its snout at her. But your work is unsatisfactory. I am too flat. The pangolin was right. Both the animal and the tree were no thicker than the paper they had been drawn on. Aish thought about how boxes looked. They weren't just squares. You could see the sides, top and bottom. Drawings of rooms had corners where the walls and floors met. Aish drew 3 lines pointing in different directions from the same point, like a corner of a box. She filled the box with grid lines. Just as she had hoped, the grid lines rose out of the paper and formed a 3-dimensional space. Brilliant! Go on into it, she told the pangolin. The creature hovered near the edge of the grid, suspiciously. The tree gave an impatient rustle of its branches and slid past the pangolin. It entered the grid and swelled up. Soon it boasted a full wide crown above a solid trunk. The pangolin needed no further convincing. The other children began to point and whisper. What is that? Mr. Firdaus pointed at the pangolin. The animal squeaked. What a rude question! What are you? This was too much. Mr. Firdaus fainted.
Wow. Well, that has never happened during my Saturday lessons in class. But it's a very fun story, a very interesting and funny start to a lesson, I think. And if you guys want to know more what happens after that, you can easily pick up a copy of this book. But what I want to actually talk about is also, apart from the story, is the art and the drawing. Very nice drawings from that, Jolene.
Yeah, so I guess we're lucky to have Isabella with us today. Obviously, the picture book, picture is half of the book, if not more. Obviously, we're very fortunate to have Isabella bring to life this story in such a kind of colorful and striking way. And I think we have today planned a little drawing challenge, a little interactive challenge as well. Would you like to introduce that, Chris? Or?
Yeah, sure. I think what we're gonna do is, so you saw in the video how Aish, when she started drawing things came to life. So today, Isabella. Hi, Isabella. What we'd like you to do, if for all those watching and listening kids, if you have any ideas, what if you were like Aish in a classroom and feeling bored and you wanted to draw, what would you draw? So I'm going to ask you guys to put these at the bottom of the screen. You can see something that says Q&A, and if you could just drop in what you would like to draw, and Isabella will put that into a scene for you guys. So if you want to draw a tree, like Aish did, just put the word there, a tree. If you want to do a pangolin, like what Aish did as well, just put there, pangolin. And then Isabella would put that together and come up with a scene. I think it's going to be in a classroom, so it could be a very crowded classroom at the end of the thing. And then at the end of the session, we're going to get to see what she has done. Okay, so just go into the Q&A, just click it in, and you will be able to see, Isabella will be able to start drawing whatever you want. Spaceship, UFOs, you could have, your parents, maybe not. But yeah, just keep doing that, and she'll start drawing and continue this through the rest of the session. But that will, and while she's doing that, though, I will very quickly introduce our second author and the second book that we are actually launching today. The book is called Just a Little Mynah, and it's written by Evelyn Sue Wong. Hi, Evelyn. How are you?
Hi. Great, thanks.
Very interesting title. It looks like a very interesting book. Could you just share very quickly what this book is about?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Well, for Jolene's story, Aisha's she's wishing she was in the park. It's a Saturday morning. In this one, little Mynah is in the park with her feathered friends. She loves her friends. They're brilliant and colorful, and visitors to the park always are oohing and awing at her friends, taking photos. And little Mynah just wishes she was not quite so ordinary. So she's happy for her friends, but just a little sad. So that's what the story is about, and how she discovers herself through the story.
Okay, and we've also got a very quick video about the reading of the book.
Yes, yeah, thanks. So I'll read a few of the first pages together with 9-year-old Karshini Devaswaran. She couldn't join us this morning, so we've recorded it together earlier this week. So,
okay, and she is doing?
Yes, she is reading the dialogue. Karshini has actually recorded the audio that is linked to the book that you can hear the words spoken, because the story, as you'll discover, is not only in English. There's also very simple words in our national languages. It's so the dialogue is in English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil. So
okay,
Karshini reads that.
Okay, let's get to the video then.
All right. Just a Little Mynah. Since the day little Mynah peeped out of her shell, she loved to talk. She soon spoke many languages and had many friends in the park. Little Mynah was always the first to wake up.
Good morning. Ciao An. Kali Vanakkam. Selamat pagi.
Heron swooped down on his enormous wings.
Ciao An, Xiao Baka. How do I look, little Mynah? Magnificent,
replied little Mynah. Peacock flashed his feathered tail.
Kali Vanakkam, Kutti Mynah. How do I look, little Mynah? Brilliant,
chirped little Mynah.
A kak.
Hornbill honked with her huge beak.
Selamat pagi, Mynah kecil. How do I sound? Spectacular,
sang little Mynah. Little Mynah was happy for her friends, but she was also sad, just a little. Every day, Heron, Peacock, and Hornbill delighted visitors at the park.
Magnificent, brilliant, spectacular,
they exclaimed. Cameras clicked and snapped. No one noticed little Mynah. Little Mynah wished she wasn't so ordinary. Little did she know that things were about to change. An alarming call echoed through the park.
Croar, croar! Diao Ming, Diao Ming!
Heron is in trouble. Little Mynah cried out for help.
Diao Ming, Diao Ming! Kapa tengah! Tolong! Help!
A flock of birds was soon right behind her, with flocks of people right behind them. Little Mynah had never flown so fast. She spotted a mess of red balloons at the top of the tallest tree.
Croar, croar!
Heron was caught.
Hang on, Heron, we're coming!
Cried little Mynah. Little Mynah flew up, 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 then dived down, down, down.
Wow, very, very exciting. A very, very interesting story about a little Mynah and how she's about to go and help. Does she actually help her manage to get her friend out of the trouble she's in?
You'll have to find out and read the book.
Okay. What's interesting?
Little my yes.
No, I mean what's interesting is also because this is also a picture book, and it also has very very eye-catching art. Perhaps you want to introduce the creator of that art for us.
Well, thank you. I'm just so happy to, Chris. Thank you. You know, we have not actually met except on Zoom, Dan and I.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Yeah. But it was really exciting for me when I first, you know, a manuscript is words on paper. And when I met with Epigram, I did think, you know, if it something 3D, like Aish draws, 3D, maybe paper cut would be really quite fun. And it was amazing that Epigram introduced me, thank you, to Dhanendra Poedjono. He's a visual artist, graphic designer, and illustrator. And apparently when you have time, you will do more art and illustration. So thank goodness you had time, because this is Dan's first picture book. And
Wow.
it's just, I know, it's just amazing. So I just was overwhelmed by the actual colored, art that we saw. We saw the illustration, the rough sketches, the storyboard first. But I think I'm understanding from Dan to do this technique on screen may be a challenge, but maybe I could ask Dan just to share with us how you create those images, like the peacock, for example. It just flies out of the page. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, when I created the peacock, of course, before you create like any illustration, you need to just draw the rough sketches and everything. I think that's the part that when I sent to Evelyn as well as like the storyboard, like how the position gonna be and whatnot. Then I recall correctly that Evelyn told me that she wants something extravagant for the peacock, which is using sequins and everything, to show that how extravagant the peacock can be. So the thing is, like, I did research on what material that can work with sequins. So, and I tried to find the material that, like, a sequin that actually looks proper and not too messy in some ways, that can work with the fabric and the other textures that I use for the bird as well. So what I do is basically it's like a digital cutout. So after I cut out all the materials and whatnot, then I add in the drop shadows and also like the effects to create this depth when it looks like a paper cut, but it's actually a digital paper cut.
Wow, that's very, very nice.
Thank you.
And of course, like I'm also going to put Dan on the spot today. I'm going to ask him to do a special piece of a drawing, right? And I know it takes a long time to do this this very incredible look that you've done for the book, but perhaps you could just show us like the initial idea of how that can work and come up with a nice little piece of art for everybody to see.
Sure.
Okay, great. I know you guys don't want to hear me talking all the time as well. I know you guys have things that you want to ask the author. So I'm going to ask everybody who's watching, if you guys have any questions that you want to put to our authors, you can leave them in the Q&A as well, and we can have a look and answer those questions that you have. It could be anything about the process of the book. It could be any question you want to find out about how they write. It could be anything about what inspirations that they have and stuff like that. So just keep putting them in the Q&A and we will get to those questions as we go along. But in the meantime, I will want to kick off the questioning for the two authors at this point. Basically, let's talk a little bit about this whole creation process from the two of you. What inspired you to actually write these stories? Maybe Jolene, you can come up with answer this question first. What was the main inspiration for Saturday's surprisingly super duper lesson?
Yeah, sure. So My child is now in chapter book age, but of course there was a while when my life just involved large numbers of picture books every day, right? And being a writer at this point of a novel, I found myself very interested in these picture books as well. And the other thing that I had noticed was that to a very large extent, certainly much more than when I was growing up, I think a lot of kids nowadays have what I would call a kind of conveyor belt life, where they are kind of shuttled from one enclosed space to another, from one class to another, from one kind of packaged experience to another. And the chance to just kind of mooch around open-endedly and have unstructured time and to be outdoors and just explore their own desires and their own interests, I think is something that children have much less of nowadays. And I think this is true in a lot of the world. And so that kind of gave me the idea for this story where, you know, the children are in this classroom and they feel kind of cramped and restricted, and they basically take over and do their own thing. And I also actually feel very strongly personally that even on the front of education and learning, that I don't think that children learn more from being sat in the classroom, being drilled and told what to do, than they do from exploring themselves. That I think actually a lot of children learn by just as much from kind of squatting by the dirt, poking in the soil with a stick for half an hour as from sitting in the classroom. And that's also something that I wanted to demonstrate in the book, the way that, in fact, to create their own fun and to build on their own interests, the kids actually have to think quite hard and do quite a lot of ingenious problem solving. And I guess I wanted to show children having fun on their own terms. So that's kind of where the idea for the story came from. Yeah.
But were you like that in school? Were you always doodling or drawing?
Yeah, possibly doodling. But I didn't really draw very much until actually a few years ago. So that was also something that was relevant, that I have started to kind of draw kind of recreationally and to teach myself. So that, I guess that also can be seen a little bit in the book, that Aish is kind of like figuring out for herself,
Right.
to solve these problems of creation and representation.
Okay. How about for yourself, Evelyn? You know, what inspired you to do a story about of all birds, a Mynah?
Right. Okay. Thanks. Well, actually, my inspiration came from a call many years. It was 2013, I think it was. The National Book Development Council was collaborating with the Lee Kuan Yew Fund for Bilingualism, and they were calling for manuscripts that would could be considered for. Actually, at the time, I didn't know. I was doing, that would bilingual, but with more local content. And my two children, when they were growing up, they were reading English books for fun and the Mandarin books to learn the language. And, I think many of the bilingual books are all in English and then all in Mandarin or all in the second language. And I thought, well, every day, in our everyday, we speak mostly English, but speak Mandarin as well. And my daughter with her children now is doing that. She's speaking only Mandarin as much as she can, and they get enough of English outside. So I wrote a story that would be in English, but with Mandarin and English dialogue. And I had just recently at that time come across a Mynah bird in Pulau Ubin, who surprised me because she called out, hello, ni hao, you see. So that kind of just was a good timing. So I used the little Mynah, who's the most common bird in Singapore, to be that character that could speak both English and have fun with the language of another language. But that story was adapted for a children's theater. And these preschoolers enjoyed it so much that I decided to do another character that could speak all 4 languages, because she hears the languages around her from her friends in the neighborhood, in the parks, and she just has fun speaking all 4 languages. So that's how I came up with this story, Just a Little Mynah, and a couple of other stories as well.
Wow. Okay. It's very interesting to hear. Actually, what I mean, for myself, when I was reading these books, what I also found interesting in both books actually was that even though the stories are very, very different, one's in the classroom, one's outside, one involves birds and another one involves small kids in the classroom, but what actually is kind of similar, I found, is the fact that they both have very similar themes, in the sense that both are about kids, or the main characters, not both kids, but main characters take it upon themselves to do something, and they both have a certain skill, and they use that skill to actually help their friends and help or improve the situation that they're in. So did you guys talk to each other before this and, hey, let's do something like this, and I'll do one in birds and I'll do one in the classroom?
No.
No. Okay.
A great coincidence, right, Jolene?
Yeah. Just kind of maybe just operating in parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite interesting. From the takeaways from both books, was that an intentional part of writing the story? Maybe Evelyn, you can start first.
Sure. Okay. I guess for me, because the Mynah is it's a misunderstood bird as far as I feel. It's considered to be very noisy and a nuisance. It's just this little black bird. And when you go to the park, people are looking for the most colorful, the most magnificent birds. So I did feel that here's a little bird that is friendly, clever, but not noticed. So she discovers in this story that even ordinary little birds can do extraordinary things. So I guess it was important for me to have that contrast. She loves her friends. She's happy for them. She's supportive, but it makes her feel a little less special. But she discovers she is just as special. It doesn't matter how you look and what people might think when they see you. Is not, they should get to know her a little more. So I hope readers will get to know the little Mynah a little more, not just with this story, but I've done a couple of others where when you see a Mynah, you go, ugh, at the hawker center eating all the food, making noise in the trees, but they're more than that. So that's the character.
I was actually surprised to learn that they're apparently not very numerous anymore.
That's the common Mynah. The Javan Mynah is overtaken, which many bird lovers lament, because they loved seeing that little brown Mynah,
right,
common, and then this invasive Javan Mynah that came in took over. So yeah. Do you see them around? I
see mostly the Javan Mynahs, I think.
Yes, that's it.
But apparently they're not very numerous anymore in Java.
Oh yeah, because they're all here.
Well, I think due to entrapping and stuff as well.
Yeah, they were
what we consider to be normal is actually considered quite exciting.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you see the Mynah in Singapore is the most common resident bird as a species, more prevalent than any other species in Singapore, which is kind of an interesting idea. But yes, they came from Java as caged birds because they can talk. They can learn to mimic, and they learn to speak from very young if they keep hearing the words repeated, just like us. If we hear the language and we're not shy to speak, so that's the hill Mynah. But some of these Javan Mynahs were also pets, and then they apparently escaped.
Yeah, I think I told you I found one in my living room the other day. I came home and there was this occasional chirping, and I was like, oh, it must be a bird outside. And then I realized it was in my living room, and it was really confused because it didn't know which windows were open and which were shut. And every time I went near it, it just got, obviously it just kind of panicked. So in the end I had to bag it in a towel and kind of hopefully without it being too stressed.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's why they're best to be free outside, not in a cage, not in a house, but out in the park.
I mean, Jolene, for yourself, your character, Aish, she's actually using also a kind of skill that she has and to enliven her situation and the situation of all the friends in the classroom. Was that also, I think, I mean, you hear you hear a lot about like kids needing creativity. We all must learn to be a bit more creative. Was that a key thing for you in writing that story?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just believe very firmly that human beings are naturally wish to seek out things that are interesting and have a desire to create and to play, and that when we create and play and follow our own sort of sense of what is fun or interesting, we can do pretty amazing things. I mean, just look at all the artworks that people have created in the world. So I mean, I personally don't see creativity as something that adults need to cultivate in children. I think that it's natural for human beings to seek out what we consider to be striking or beautiful or ingenious, and to what we want to understand it, and we want to be able to make things like that. And so that's kind of partly what I hope we see the children doing in this book, that in trying to do something that they find amusing, that they find sort of captures their imagination, they naturally have to collaborate and think about things and to build their own fun. Work and fun in many ways can kind of come together.
That's true. Learning through fun is a thing that everybody's been talking about in recent times as well.
Yeah, but I guess to me, I do also feel that, like, actually for a lot of children, we don't need to put it in kind of instrumental terms or in a, do A to get B sort of way. If you just leave children to play and you just kind of observe them playing, you will find them creating and teaching themselves a lot of things. And I think that's something that we could all use a bit more of, is to kind of trust kids.
Yeah, and that's what I really like, Jolene, about that. Like, I'm a different generation. I have a 3-year-old and 5-year-old granddaughters, and they're with me every day. And they loved your story because they believe that they can do all of this. It's just something that is natural, and it was good that you just put the teacher to sleep. And these kids solve it, because like for Ellie and Edith, they say they can solve any problem. If I have any problem, let them know, they will solve it, and they will work at this. So it was wonderful to see this. Oh, I don't want to give away the story, but what the kids created is exactly what they imagine they can do. I mean, there's just no limit. Yeah. Well, and, sorry, Chris, just to pick up, I didn't address that particular question you asked, sorry, about the skill that Mynah used then, is being able to speak these 4 languages. Like, as your kids, Jolene, they just naturally solved the problems and came together. I think for the little Mynah, she just naturally calls out in all the languages she can, both her feathered friend languages and the language she hears from people. And that rallied everybody to her call. And so she was able to use that skill in a, first it was a fun way to say good morning to all her friends, but then she was able to make a good use of the ability to speak more than one language without thinking about it. It was just a natural thing.
Yeah, and language, I think, is one of those great examples of the way that kids pick things up because they can relate to it, right? Like, they all learn their first language because that's how you talk to your parents or siblings about stuff. And it's so much more effective than having a flashcard exercise, like, look at the picture, look at the word, look at the picture, look at the word. If you're chatting with friends, that's the best way to learn.
Yeah. And so that's it. Just out in the park, listening and not being shy to speak and then using the language. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to remind all the attendees who are tuning into this, click on the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. You can see that, and just pop in the questions for the authors. We'll be getting to them soon. And just leave any question that you want to leave in there. It could be about their work. It could be about how they do things, how they write. Do you write chapter by chapter? Do you have the whole story? You know, anything that you want to find out about them and writing a book, or even how to use children's books to engage kids, have parent bonding time, all that kind of stuff. Because children's books, I think, I mean, I don't know about the two of you, but picture books was one key way for me anyway. When my two boys were very young, we just used picture books. I didn't bother reading the thing. I just told them to look at the picture, and then we talked about the picture. You know, because they were a bit too young to this was like when they're 2 or 3, so they're just learning how to grasp words and stuff. But we just talked about the picture, and then like, hey, what's in this picture? What's this and all that. So, did you guys do that with your kids or your grandkids? In case of Evelyn?
Jolene?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we spend ages like kind of reading books together, chatting about them. I find it's a really nice way to kind of spend time together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you, I felt definitely the very first time, we were doing it again this morning because it was a rainy morning, right? But the first time that I had some time sitting on the sofa with my kid, and I had a book in one hand and she had a book in one hand, and we were sitting there reading, I was like, this is it. This is my life's work is done.
Brilliant.
I think Jolene and I we were speaking a while back, right? When we first sort of had a little chat, more so when I was growing up, and you were mentioning when you were young, there weren't as many picture books, you know. But now with my two children are grown, you know, adults now, but there were more picture books then, but not that many with local content, not many with Singapore content. Now with my 3-year-old and 5-year-old, it's just, look at the books behind you, Chris, at the Hugs Epigram. There's so many local books, picture books, wonderful. And so it's really, you know, I think picture books is the start of literacy, both in the language and the visual. So it's so important. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
My 3-year-old the other day was saying, and I've shared this with the friends, we read all the time, every day. And one day I was busy and I gave her a book. I said, well, read this now. You know, once she hears it, she will read, but she can't read, right? But she remembers the words. So I had given her a wordless book, and she looked at it and she said, Amma, I can't read this. There are no words in it. So she's 3 years old, right? But, you know, that love of the books. But then, of course, the pictures told everything, and she had no problem, but it's just fun.
Okay. Well, I think we can get to some of we are getting a few Q&A questions coming in. So I think we can get to them now. Okay. Well, this is actually a very interesting one. And this one I'll have to get Dan and Isabella to stop what they're doing for a moment. This is coming from anonymous attendee. Hello, Mr. or Mrs. Attendee. This question is for the illustrators. How is illustrating this book different from illustrating past books for yourself, or I guess other projects that you've done? Maybe Isabella, do you want to get into this question? How is illustrating this book?
This is actually also my first time illustrating a picture book.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of quite a bit challenging for me, but not so much because I study animation in university, so I'm used to telling stories.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Did you have any difficulty trying to understand the situation, or was it easy with the moment you read the you read the story, you go, okay, this is what I want to show?
Oh yeah, I think the story is quite clear, and like it's very easy for me to visualize what I should draw for the book. And Jolene also, we met up and then she explained to me her vision for the book. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Dan? Like, this is also your first time doing a book, but you've done other kinds of illustrations before. How was this? How was it?
Yeah, I think actually this, like making this kind of book reminds me of, you know, when I was in school, because I mean, same like Isabella, I studied animation as well. So learning about, you know, like creating like from the storyboard before like the final artwork and everything, I think it's very interesting because I haven't done something like, you know, telling a story like this long for a while. So it was a very fun project as well. And the one that makes it different, I think, you know, it's very localized, this book, and you know, we want to highlight the different cultures in Singapore, you know, like from multiple different races, the languages and everything. So I think that's one challenge when we try to express it, you know, with words, not people. Yeah. So I mean, there are still people like in the book and everything. So we want to show like, you know, different cultures, different people and everything to just show like how diverse the book is. So I think, you know, giving that diversity is just like a fun challenge, and it just like an overall, it just like a fun open mind kind of book for me as well.
Okay.
Oh, can I also add maybe
Sure.
something different is when something about a picture book is you have to think about the layout and how it goes with the text. Yeah, because when I'm doing animation, I don't have to think about, because it's just a fixed ratio, it's just on the screen. But when you're thinking about doing a book, you have to think about how it flows with the text and how it fits in together. So I think that's one of the challenges. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to bring the authors in at this point about that as well. Very interesting thing is, was it easy to collaborate with illustrators when doing this kind of a book? Only because, like, I mean, like what Isabella just said, she has to consider, oh, if there are going to be words on this side, I guess I can't do my drawing. I can't put people there or the pangolin over there or something. You know, was it easy to translate all that between the authors and you guys, the illustrators?
So, I mean, for me, I didn't find it very challenging. To begin with, I did some very rough sketches of how I imagined things could look, but they were extremely rudimentary. But actually, to be honest, the layouting was mostly done by the good people at Epigram, I think, or Isabella. So my input was just to kind of supply the text and some comments on how I imagined things could look. But it's probably for the best that it wasn't left to me to make visual decisions in the end. So yeah, it was like a dream. I put things in and then suddenly, oh my God, somebody's turned it into pictures. So I can't take any kind of credit or say it was hard at all. Yeah.
How about you, Evelyn?
Okay, I think for me, any inputs I did was through Lynette, our editor. I did not have any preconceived ideas for the illustrations. Dan was given the manuscript. Am I right, Dan?
Yes.
And we didn't have any preliminary conversation. So the first I saw was the book cover. I think you need that for the catalog first, is it? So Dan had done a sketch of this, and we worked at that. I gave comments, but not directly to Dan, but it was wonderful to see this first using the paper cut effect. It was just important for me, I guess, to just look at the character, how the character was going to look like, because that would be presumably in the whole book. I had no idea what he was going to do for the whole book yet, but we had at least the one image, yeah. And then the background and all. But once we got the sketches, again, it was comments I could make through Lynette to Dan, and it was just wonderful that he would always seem to have come back. Lynette would say, yeah, he's fine with this, and I'd see the next time I only saw the next near the final, am I right, storyboard, Dan, that you were good to go before going to color.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just like, wow, okay, you know, this is fantastic. And it was, as we said, just commenting, could it look less like, if I could say, less like a Jurong Bird Park? You know, in my mind, it was more, it could be a nature reserve, it could be one of our more natural parks. So he took out he had some railings and some paths that looked a little more like it might be a commercial place. So, and we talked about having local residents in the park.
Okay. Let's go to the next question now. Evelyn, I'm going to get you to stay on the line. This is for you from Grace, who's 8. Hello, Grace. She wants to know, how did little Mynah learn so many languages? And I guess this is also related, from Russell Chia. Hi, Russell. Why did you decide on the heron, peacock, and hornbill for Mynah's friends?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, peacock and hornbill. Yes. All right. The first one, how little Mynah learned to speak so many languages. Is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Just listening, little Mynah, like you, I think you're 8 years old. I think when you hear the languages around you spoken, he was interested. He liked to talk. He liked to make friends, and he wasn't shy to try to speak. So when you hear words often enough, and I think in the park you will always hear good morning, selamat pagi, right, jiao an, kale vanakam. Those are some words she would always hear. So I guess that's the idea I have for the Mynah, that just by living and flying around, and she likes to make friends. So why heron, peacock, and hornbill? The heron, all of these birds can readily be seen in Singapore. That's one. And the heron, there are many species, but I needed birds that could speak the different languages. So for heron, it is a very sort of popular bird in the Chinese culture, where the symbol of the bird, the word in Chinese for heron is the same as the path, and it escapes you right now. So it is drawn often in good wishes, well wishes, on cards or sewn into fabric. So this heron is Mandarin speaking. And while we're on the screen, if I might add, I think Isabella, you were talking about the layout and all. You see here, we ended up putting heron swoop down on his enormous wings under the wing. One challenge we had was in the design was the different colored fonts for the different languages, and huge images and how to put the words. So we played around with that. I'll maybe come back to that. But the heron, and we don't have the image here to show you, but you saw it. The peacock, well, yeah, the peacock is here, yeah. The peacock is the national bird of India. So, and we see them here, very grand. So I have the peacock speaking Tamil. And you see, Mynah sees peacock every day, so she picks up from the words that the peacock speaks. So, yeah. And the third one is the hornbill, the oriental pied hornbill. Oh, thank you, Doretta. This is native to this region, Southeast Asia, and they used to be in Singapore a lot. Then they became extinct in the early 90s and came back in from Malaysia. And we've had this hornbill project here. So clearly hornbill is Malay speaking, coming from Malaysia and just being one of our very common birds in Southeast Asia, but Malaysia, Singapore. So that's how I came up with these three. And they're also magnificent, brilliant, spectacular birds compared to the ordinary little Mynah.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Evelyn. This next question also comes from anonymous attendee, and this is actually for Jolene. So the question is, between writing a book for adults and a book for children, which was more challenging for you?
Oh, like hands down, the writing the books for adults, just from the sheer length of it, and also, I feel like the brief in writing a children's book, especially for this age group, is a lot clearer. My number one goal is just to entertain.
Okay.
And I think having been forced to make up a lot of random stories on the fly when my child was of an age to be entertained by that, it was perhaps a more practiced skill. Whereas I think writing a novel, there's a lot more kind of moving parts and competing considerations. So for me at least, writing the children's book was a lot easier. I mean, there's also the fact that it's like how many pages are we talking? I don't know, 30 pages or something.
Versus, let's see. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, just definitely writing children's books is easier.
I don't know, because like, you know, I think for children's books though, it may see, I mean, for myself anyway, it may, to me, it may seem a little easier, but because I guess I'm a rather verbose person, you know, scrunching all those words into just to get the whole story out, it's a bit, for me, I find it a bit tough. I don't know, what did you find that?
That is definitely one of the challenges, is to not use sort of like language constructions or vocabulary that you might naturally use when you speak to other adults. I think because I also used to be a teacher of English as a foreign language, I got very used to cutting out like really thinking very hard about whether my sentences were comprehensible to other people, right? Like you talk to a person for whom English is a foreign language, and you don't start your sentence with, so you see the thing here that you really have to understand and which is really important is, you've just given them so many clauses and so many bits that they have to process, and you still haven't even got to the main part of your sentence. So I think perhaps being used to thinking about what your audience can process is a skill that could also be transferred to writing children's books. Because when you talk to children as well, I actually think children can understand fairly complex concepts, much more complex than we often give them credit for. But you have to break it down into clear pieces, and pieces that they can kind of understand discreetly.
Right.
Having, I mean, I'm as I say this, I'm constructing this mega sentence. But, you know, I would not speak like this to a child.
I mean, what I like is also in your book as well. I mean, all the sentences, because they're so short and snappy, and they get the point across very, very quickly. You know, she tried to balance a pencil on her lip or something, and then that's it. And immediately you get the whole idea in like 3 very short sentences. You get the whole idea of what was going on in her head at that point in time.
Yeah, so there's a kind of economy involved in the picture book. I mean, I think the editor also did have to pare it down a bit because there was probably a little bit more. But yeah, it's a different sort of style, clearly. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
yep.
Do I have time? I just jumped in here. I've been working at trying to be as clear and concise for picture books for a long time now. I'm part of a critique group, and without them, I don't know how I could do this, to bring down, as you say, a story to less than 500 words, to be every word meaningful, you know, that every word counts, and on each page is really an art and a skill that takes a long time to, you know, a lot of reading of other books and a lot of practice and learning on how to be so concise in 32 pages and less than 500 words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of being concise, I'm going to ask you, 2 of you guys, to be very concise as we're coming towards the end of the session. This last question, very quickly, from Srividya Venkat. I hope I got the name correct. Both authors, what's your next project? Are we going to get Sunday's lesson and, you know, Mynah 2, the return of Mynah?
Jolene?
I'm in the process of finishing revisions on the second novel.
Okay.
So that should be out next year.
Okay. And
So,
you?
Okay, so for me, though, I'm working now with Dan on the next Little Mynah story. So there will be, right now we have the storyline for 2 more.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And they were I first wrote them for storytelling. So it's been a real challenge to rethink and rewrite into a picture book format. So there'll be 2 more Little Mynah adventures, this time with children, where she's using her languages. Yeah.
Okay. And also, I'm going to ask the 2 illustrators, how are things going with the 2 drawings that you guys started on earlier?
I'm still doing the leopard right now.
Okay. You know what we'll do? What we can do is, when these 2 drawings are done, right? What we can do is we can take them out, we can print them. And if you guys want, I think Children's Day is coming sometime soon. What we can do is we can print these out. We could pass them to people who want these drawings. I guess, I don't know if you guys will be free, but if you guys want to pop down maybe on Children's Day to the Hugs Epigram Coffee Bookshop at 45 Maxwell Road, that's at URA Center, we could bring some of these drawings down, and we could just, it'll be for you guys, all you guys attending this launch at this point in time.
Could I share this?
Is that okay? Oh yeah. Well,
I would also, I'll be happy to drop down on Children's Day. I don't know if I'll bring my grandchildren, but dear Dan, he's helped me to create this. He suggested the Hawaiian Kulik kind of idea. It's an adaptation. So you'll see, I'll bring them down. The crane, the peacock, and of course the hornbill.
Sure.
So that'd be fun. So, and having Dan and Isabella's illustrations would be really great.
Yeah, well, okay, let's do that. I mean, Isabella, how are you going over there?
I'm okay. I drew the suggestions.
Okay.
They're mostly animals, so
right.
I can show it.
Sure.
Don't know if you can see.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Very nice. Very
That's
nice.
so cute.
Yeah, it is. That's really nice. I like that. A whale, an elephant.
That's fun. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we could do something like that with these. I'm sure there'll be something that we could do. And we're actually coming to the end of this session. I want to thank everyone.
Did Dan have a chance to finish anything?
Yeah, sure. So let me show you this. So I just draw like one leopard here. If you can see this is just like a quick leopard. And also the tiger elephant was quite a funny thing. So I literally drawn an elephant that have tiger patterns.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's quite cool. Okay. Well, again, thanks guys. Thank you, Evelyn, Jolene, Isabella, and Dan for turning up, for taking part in this thing. Thank you to all the people who attended this thing. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you guys have learned something. Children's books are great for learning things, for learning and not just for entertaining. And you get a lot of cool things, little lessons that are snuck into those pages and things that you can take back. I guess, would you guys agree? I would.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much once again. This book launch was presented as part of the Asian Festival of Children's Content 2020 Digital Symposium that's happening actually next week from the 2nd to the 4th of October. This will feature close to 50 speakers from Singapore and beyond Asia. If you want to find out more about that event, you can go to afcc.com.sg. If you guys want to get the books, though, Just a Little Mynah and Saturday's Surprisingly Super-Duper Lesson, these 2 books are available from the AFCC bookshop. If you go to the website, you can see a link for the bookshop. So these 2 books, you can get them from there. Or if you want, you can pop down to the Hugs Epigram Coffee Bookshop and pick up a copy there as well, or Epigram Books website. It's epigrambookshop.sg. Thank you very much once again for joining in. We hope you have a good Saturday, have a good weekend.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
very much hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.